As many of you know, over the last probably 3 weeks, we have been doing interviews with candidates. And this week, it's the Paso Robles City Council race. Today is District 3. Tomorrow will be District 1. Today we have Steve Gregory, Michael Rivera, and Jeff Carr. They are in the studio. How we are operating this, with all the allegations of the media showing bias in their debates. In this case, every candidate was asked to provide questions. The questions asked will be provided by the candidates. We drew straws. Steve Gregory won. All candidates are going to describe themselves, and then we're going to start with Steve Gregory explaining why he's running, who he is, and why he thinks he is the best candidate. After the candidates describe themselves, we will start taking commercial breaks, and then come back with more. We'll do questions and broken up with commercial breaks. Okay, Steve, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you. Thanks for this great venue. I like it.
And please tell the audience why you are running and why you are the best candidate.
Okay. So my name is Steve Gregory. I'm the current city council person for District 3. And I believe I'm the right candidate for what I've done with the community and the community. I've been here for 44 years. I've raised my children here. My whole life is here, and I'm a great volunteer for the community. I volunteer for schools. I was PTA president of 2 different schools, Safe and Sober Grad Night, and I give to ECHO and Boys and Girls Club and several PRIAF are all the organizations that I donate money to and time to. And I really believe in giving back. For one example, and I'll only use one, is I raised the money to reopen Centennial Pool in the middle of summer. It was just not something that should have happened. So the reason why I'm running, I really believe in keeping our town safe and family friendly. I fully support supporting the police and fire department, fully support them financially and also on their design in the future. I also am working diligently on roads. We have been using E12 funding, and in the last 12 years, we spent $78 million from those funds and also some grants. And so we've made sure that we spent every penny of that money on roads. And in addition to that, we have a group of people. It's called the Supplemental Sales Tax Oversight Committee. They're all private citizens that sit on that committee with me, and I'm the liaison with that committee and have been since day one. In addition to that, I'm really concerned with housing. I'm the liaison for the city for all the specific plans on housing for Olson, Beechwood, and even the smaller projects. My biggest interest right now in housing is we're meeting all our arena numbers, which are the very low income numbers for housing. My keenest interest right now is I want to be able to work on workforce housing, and a couple questions are in there we'll talk about later. But that's something I'm really focusing on. And I'm also really involved in youth sports, recreation, so I support those departments. And then finally, economic development is really near and dear to my heart. When I originally ran for city council, my purpose was to get the airport fully built infrastructurally. So we rebuilt Dry Creek Road. We put in all the fire water necessary, sewer. So the airport is fully ready to go, 1,300 acres of prime land for companies to come in and provide head of household jobs. And that ties in also nicely with Spaceport. In addition, I spend a lot of time with our local smaller businesses, helping them figure out a way to retain their business and solve problems with city issues. I'm not a politician. I'm a small businessman who loves this town I live in, and I give back. I give back most of my salary to charities here every year, and I look forward to continuing the progress we've been making as our town. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. And Jeff, what makes you the best candidate for city council, and what do you plan to do if elected to office?
Yeah, hi. My name is Jeff Carr. Thank you very much for having me today. I feel I'm the best candidate because I want to solve a few issues that I feel that the city has right now. We have, I think, a well-known problem of the residents not being listened to by the council, and also the city staff. And I think that is, when the council's not listening, the city's not going to listen. It's in the city. The city council is not setting a good example for the rest of the city as far as how to listen to the public and then take that input and to make action items out of it and get things done. I'm somewhat new to the community. I've lived here since 2016. I'm a retired electronic engineer, but I've been coming up here since the 1970s. I'm an avid motorcycle rider, so I've been riding these areas for years and years. And I love it up here. I've always loved it. And now, at retirement, I had an opportunity now to finally live here. And so I plan to stay here in retirement. But I tried to get more involved in the community, and I think that was the first issue was parking. And I just could not believe how the community, the residents, were being snubbed, and the business people were being snubbed on that project. So that was what kind of got me involved in government. So that's since then it's been a prime issue of mine as far as all the different committees and such that I go to and comment on and listen to is how the public comment is handled. How's it taken and how's it handled? And it's not. I don't feel it's been satisfactory, and I've been trying to make improvements in that. But I think as a council member, I can make it a much better improvement. And like I said, some of our existing council. They hit the wall. They hit the big time when the way they handled parking as far as not listening for so long. And then we had the whole Brown Act issue, and they could have easily just come back and did a redo on that meeting. And instead, no, they couldn't even do that. They had to hold firm. And that kind of an attitude in the city council is not what I see is appropriate. It's not what I'm used to. I'm tired of the conflict with parking, conflict with all these projects. We need to work better with the public, get things taken care of ahead of time, get in tune and understand the problem and how we want to solve it as a community. And then the council's decision at that point should be easy. It shouldn't be a conflict. It shouldn't be a fight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And Mike Rivera, will you now tell the listeners why you think you are the best candidate and what you will do if you get into office?
Well, Karen, thank you so much for allowing me to be on the show. I just want to say that, I've been a 50-year resident of the Central Coast. My wife and I have been married 52 years. We have 3 adult children. I've been very involved in government, county, city government over the years. I was the Private Industry Council chairperson in Santa Barbara County and the member of that board for many years. I've served as a parks commissioner, a planning commissioner. I served on the 7-Eleven committee here in Paso Robles School District. I also served on the Measure M committee. I've been very engaged in the issues related to the school district and the city. Many of you may have heard me speak on numerous occasions at city council meetings, and we have a problem here. Everything isn't okay, and there's specific reasons why. My colleague, Mr. Carr, has outlined some things that are very specific to what's been going on here. We have a city council that doesn't want to listen. They're tone deaf. They're not looking at what Roblin's needs are, really. Special interests have way too much control here. And we are not focusing our energy and our time really looking at the needs of permanent residents. When I ran for mayor this last cycle, I had a message, and that message hasn't changed much. We need fiscal accountability. We're $124 million in debt in this city. We have a $6.4 million payment schedule annually. This city council is looking at possibly, if the tax issue is approved, they're looking at leveraging that and possibly floating a bond for another $60 million, which would push us up towards $180 million in debt. Now, I don't like credit card debt, but that's what this is all about. But yet, we also had a budget deficit of $40 million this last cycle. The budget deficit was made up by $15 million borrowing from our reserves and putting off other projects. Some $30 million, I think, was the number. We're going in the wrong direction. We had one of our best years tax revenue-wise last year, but yet our roads are crumbling. With all respect to my opponent, there is apparently a disconnect here, and not everybody is doing very well. And we have a labor pool now that is service industry related, hardworking people, good people. I talk to many of them all the time, but they can't afford rent in this town, much less being able to buy a home. So I think we have some serious issues here. We need a change, and the changes should be this election cycle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michael. And Steve, I'm going to ask you the first question. Okay. If we end up with a break, I'll give you 10 seconds to talk, and then you can return to talking when we come back. Okay. We have a housing shortage of both affordable and workforce housing. Regarding workforce housing, what are your ideas to create more inventory, which would allow police officers, firefighters, local head of household, and their families to be able to afford to live here in Paso Robles? Just to be clear, this is about workforce housing, which is approximately in the price range of $500,000.
Yes, so I'll answer that question. So that number of 500,000, I just put it, it's a variable number, 450 to 550. So the question is, how do we get people getting into affordable housing? And right now, the market rate's way up there. People can't afford $600,000, $700,000 homes with these higher interest rates. So I've been talking to a couple different developers, and one of the concepts that I'm really pushing for now is Atascadero did a really good job, and they built a development of smaller square footage homes, like 1,100 square foot, 1,000 square foot homes with garages, smaller lots. And when you get smaller lots, smaller homes, your costs go down, and you try to keep your costs for the house around $350 or whatever, plus the land cost. So if you can keep the prices down like that, then the next part is the affordability on the interest rate. And as we've done to recruit people now, is we've been trying to get people to into housing when they recruit them for jobs like the police department. So my idea is to get these houses built for sale and help the people coming in by buying down the interest rate, by going from 6% down to 3%. If you can get a loan at 3% on a $400,000 note, it becomes much more affordable for these people. They did a project like this also in Atascadero. It's called Dove Creek, and there's restrictions with it. It's very detailed. But I think we need to do something similar to that or creative like that to create like 50 or 60 affordable homes just to start with. If the project works, then we can go and build more. So that's my comment on that.
Thank you very much, Steve. And now, Jeff, same question. As you know, we are having a housing shortage of both affordable and workforce housing. This is specific to workforce housing in the approximately $500,000 range. What could the city do to do more workforce housing, build up the inventory with a focus on police officers, firefighters, and local head of household jobs?
Yes, that is an important issue we have here. And this range here, this 500,000, I don't know anybody that's building those homes right now in Paso Robles. That is a important part about not just getting a loan for it, but just getting them built in the first place. I don't know how that's going to exactly happen. Some of that is happening. I notice in San Luis Obispo, they have homes that are deed restricted, and they're usually selling in the $400,000 to $500,000 range. There's other aspects. They could try some kind of inclusionary housing program to try to get some built with some alongside some larger homes that the developer might be more willing to build. Another reason I think we've had a problem with this kind of range of housing is the short-term rentals we've had in the city. I still think back of this one person on one street near me. It was an 850 square foot house, and she said nobody's going to want to live there. It's only good as a short-term rental. Nobody's going to want to buy that house. But that's the kind of house we're talking about building right now here.
Jeff, continue.
Yes. Well, I agree with Steve that it is important to have this level of this stage of housing here, right? And I was mentioning that we let a lot of that just go away with short-term rentals. Lots of small, nice little older homes, perfect homes for starter families. But that's that cat's out of the bag now. That one's on its path. We got the short-term rental system in place at the moment. So we do need to find a way to get more in here, housing in here. I think, like I mentioned, there are ways to do that with trying to get it built in maybe into the zoning a little bit, working with the developers to get that in, get those homes in. And he mentioned it as well to get some loan support on providing those. Those are all important. I'd be all for making this a priority for the city. We have some housing committees on right now, but it's an overdue priority. So yeah, I would go along with that, putting it on an agenda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And Michael Rivera, same question. We're talking. We have a housing shortage with both workforce and affordable. This question is about workforce for policemen, firefighters, head of household, homes about the $500,000 range. What can we do to have more of those type of homes available?
Thank you, Karen. My opponent's been in his seat for 10 years, and this issue has been an issue that has been around a long time. And so my question is, why haven't we addressed it in an aggressive way before? Because of regulations from the state, county, and city, not to mention high interest rates, land costs, and inflation, all these factors make getting the cost of housing more affordable very challenging. Let's look at rezoning land by revisiting our master plan. Let's look at the Planning and Development Department and how, under my opponent's watch, there has been very little attempt to address the hoops that have to be jumped through by our developers and by the people who are trying to build homes. It's a very difficult, arduous process, and I think that needs to be addressed. We need to start looking at areas outside of our city, unfortunately, because our land costs and our ability to provide that housing is very limited. And so places like San Miguel and Shandon, which need shopping, we need to work with our county officials and say, hey, we need to start looking at places outside, because no matter how hard, let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. We have a number of developments going right now. For example, a 55-plus development in River Oaks. Those houses are being built and they're being sold immediately. People from LA and the Bay Area are coming up here and paying cash for those houses. They're not financing them. So we have a real issue with demand. Demand is huge. We have 20 million people in the Southern California region. We have millions of people in the Northern California region. We put houses up for sale in Paso Robles. They're going to get sold faster than people can possibly imagine, which is going to put additional pressure on Paso Robles. Buying down interest rates, I have no problem with that. If that's something that we can accomplish, great. But the problem is that we have a supply problem, and we're not going to provide that entire supply unless we want to become San Jose for the entire region. We have to start looking at other ways to provide this. I want to preserve Paso Robles' culture, our history, and our way of life. And the way we're going right now, that is not going to happen unless we take very clear steps in avoiding that. Thank you.
We are now going on to a question that Jeff will answer first. How are you different from the other candidates, and how do those differences make you the best choice to be the city councilman for District 3?
Okay, yep, that's a good question. I think firstly is my objectivity on issues. I think I can look at issues with an objective point of view that we haven't had, at least in my district, for a while. I don't have conflicts of interest, so I won't have to recuse myself. The incumbent right now has been having to recuse himself for short-term rentals, and we've had a number of issues related to that. And on that specific issue, I don't like not having any representation. I'm not represented. I don't own short-term rentals, but even the short-term rental owners aren't being represented. And I think I can be objective on these decisions. I also have, with my system engineering background, part of that is listening to different points of view, gathering, inputs from customers, the public, components of the development team, and putting that all together into a system architecture. So I can listen to diverse groups and people and solve problems in that way. And that's the most important thing, is to be able to listen and understand the problem first without trying to force a solution on people, that I can take that input first and digest it. And that's what I think has also been missing in our city council, is too often, they come to the table with solutions that don't fit the needs of the people, and they aren't listening to the public. And so that's where a skill that I think I have as a strong advantage in my case. I think, the parking problem was the epitome of that, but it's not the only one. Even last night on the zoning, the comprehensive zoning code update, a big issue was that was the people were not being listened to with respect to home occupations. So now we had a big conflict that should have been solved early on, and it got left down to so it became a city council conflict that they had to resolve. That's not the way I think the city should work. We should be able to solve these problems in these committees if they would just listen and work with people. I respect the public. I respect the public involvement. I trust the people of City of Paso Robles to make good decisions, and we just have to listen to what they want and need and what they have to say. I have a better, I think, feel for and a respect even for city policies that do protect the public. I've had issues with trying to get even just certain things like bylaws on committees in place, and operating committees appropriately, and noticing correctly on agendas and such. Those are all things that are really to protect the public. And we cannot have council members that just skip these policies or think it's not important. They are important, and we have to make sure that they are all honored. Also, I've done my homework. I know what's going on. I didn't just come here yesterday and start saying I needed to be on the city council, and I'm not here because of some issue that I'm upset about in particular. I'm here because I've done my homework. I've gone to a lot of the committees. I've gone to the city council meetings. I've read the reports. I've read the documents, the specific plans, the general plan. I have a feel for what's happening in the government, and I think I can jump in, running. And that coupled with my leadership and diplomatic skills, I think I can work well with other council members as well. Once working with the public, then working with other council members to get things done and get things done efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The same question for you. Thank you, Jeff. That was Jeff Carr. And now we have Michael Rivera. How are you different from the other candidates, and how do those differences make you the best choice for District 3 City Council?
Karen, thank you for the question. And that's a great question. I think I have a history of success in anything I've done. It relates to not only business, but also in relation to government. I'm the person who helped build 2 gymnasium in conjunction with city and school district funding. I believe a tax dollar is a tax dollar is a tax dollar. And when you can work cooperatively with other entities in order to build and provide services to the public, we should, when it fits and when it works, we should do that. I've also was the person who brought forth the idea of seed money for the Commercial Space Flight Center, which is now at Vandenberg, which Andreas Estrand eventually became executive director of, and that eventually became the Commercial Space Center at Vandenberg. SpaceX was on her board of directors way back in the day when nobody knew who SpaceX was. And I'm proud to say that I was part of getting that seed money so that when Ray Deutsch and Jim Deaney and those people who started that original push were working towards that, they came and said, hey, we're running out of money. And I says, well, we have money on the Private Industry Council, and we provided them with seed money. We gave them 4 grants, kept them alive, and it's resulted in what you see now at Vandenberg. So I do understand about commercial space flight and space centers. I've also been successful when I was a parks commissioner. We built one of the best park systems in the country in a community not far from here. I have shown a ability to work with many different groups of people, many different political persuasions, and when we focus on looking at what the needs and what the needs are of our community, I'm very good at identifying and finding out what it is that the community really needs, and I'm good at listening, believe it or not. So I do have a long history of success. I think I can bring that success to this council. One of the things I want people to understand out there, government always tells you what you can't do, but they never tell you what you can. That was told to me by a very wise man many years ago, and I have always taken that. So I've always taken that and said, well, if they tell you you can't do it, well, I guess you can't. But if they haven't said anything that you can do it, I guess you can. So I try to find those solutions, and solutions is part of my training. It has been during my professional life. I've always been trained to find solutions to problems, and that's what I've focused on in my entire adult life. And I thank God for those people and those mentors who trained me and have brought me to the point I am now, a 70-year-old man who's prepared to give his service to his community.
Thank you very much, Mike Rivera. And now, Steve Gregory, the same question. How are you different from the other candidates? And how do those differences make you the best candidate?
Well, I started out on the Planning Commission many years ago, and I'm here because I love my community and I want to protect the community. And I have a consistent history and work ethic of working very hard and understanding and doing my homework on projects. I'm a problem solver. Even when I was on the Planning Commission, I worked on a project with Jan Albin, where they're neighbors of the horse operation, and I got a group of people together and resolved it. I reach out to the community, but I'm involved in the community. I am part of the community. And I think that's really important. I'm going to speak about myself because these gentlemen are fine gentlemen. I don't know them. I don't want to say anything about them. So, but I will tell you about myself. I've been there for the last 15 years working in the city government, on the Planning Commission, and now the City Council. I've been on countless committees. I've taken my personal time and up to 80 meetings a month to meet with people and take care of problems. Problem solving is a key to the issue. I meet with developers, private citizens, anywhere from falling trees, whatever it is, I'm there, and I've always been available. And when it comes to listening, I sit on the council, and especially on big subjects, like last night, I'm the listener. I don't ask a lot of questions until the end, and then I try to summate what's going on. I've learned a long time ago in my business practices, I ran a company with 200 employees. Every one of those employees was dependent on me for their lifeline of income, and I know what that's like. And so the city of Paso Robles, I treat like it's my own checkbook, so to speak. I don't waste money for our citizens. I spend money wisely. I take every little consideration into that I can to be accountable for the financing of the city. Ever since I've been on the council, we've had a surplus in our budget. I think we've run the city pretty well, and we've gone a long ways in the last 10 years. We finally got all our specific plans started, and it's through problem solving, working with staff, working with the community, that's important. And most importantly, I like to talk about our workshops we do with the community. Jeff and Mike both got to go to the one at Olive Street. Those are the kind of workshops we've done over the years. We did it for Creston Road. We did it for the goals and for the city themselves. Where does our city want to go? So we had invited 100 or 200 people to these meetings, and we set our goals for the council with the city citizens with us, telling us what's important to them. And, the most important things to those people were police and fire, homelessness, better roads, pretty obvious things. But we brought groups of people together to share that information with us. And the last thing I'll say about myself, I believe in getting it done. I have a positive attitude, and I use kindness in my approach and thoroughness. I'm very, very good and deep in most subjects that come to the council, and I may not speak up as much as I should, but I understand them. And most of the time, I make good decisions, and according to the public. And one thing for the record is 96% of the time, our city council is voted together, 5-0. And it's because the projects that have been brought to get to us, between the community and the staff, we've been able to move forward in a very positive way. Our city is the envy of cities in this county because we're moving forward. We're healthy. We got people who are interested in helping our city get better, like these two gentlemen and myself. I'm a believer in Paso Robles, and I'm here to do the best job I can with the effort, with the information and my ability. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve Gregory. And for the next question, we're going to have Michael Rivera. Michael, the paid parking cost the city hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why was no one held accountable at BBK, the law firm representing the city, for the terrible legal advice they provided?
Thank you, Karen, again for the question. As I was saying, in government, and this is what makes people so cynical about local and county and our federal government, state government. Nobody's ever held accountable for these decisions, and the taxpayers feel as though they're constantly being pounded upon, and nobody is there for asking them what does it mean to them. I mean, we're talking in this circumstance hundreds of thousands of dollars that were misspent inappropriately because of bad legal advice by BKK. And then when it came down to it, with all respect to Mr. Gregory, there was no one who would hold BKK accountable for what they did, or BBK, excuse me. And I think that's what frustrates people the most, is when a big mistake like that is made, they feel as though, hey, I'm just a magic money tree to these folks, and there is no accountability, and it's other people's money, so why do I care? I mean, that may not be what somebody is actually thinking, but the public is looking at it that way. And the lack of concern, when we have that much money that was spent inappropriately, and was the advice by legal counsel was so bad that it cost us so much money, and then we didn't hold that law firm accountable, is beyond me. And that leads to one other thing. If they gave that bad of legal advice on this particular, what should have been a rather simple question, how bad is the legal advice that they have given to us previously? If we were to dig down deep on this, I think it might shock people. I hope it won't, but I feel that this could be a can of worms that was opened, and now there is nobody that's pursuing what we should have done, and that's we should have held somebody accountable for this. And my opponent decided that was something that they did not want to do, even though the attorney firm did indicate some $30,000 of credit or whatever it was they decided to do. I'm not sure what that was, but the bottom line, it's not enough. And I would hope that we would address that. And I certainly tell you, as your representative in the 3rd District, I certainly would address that and not let it go. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you very much, Mike Rivera. And now, Steve Gregory, we're going to ask you the same question. The paid parking costs the city hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why was no one held accountable at BBK, the law firm representing the city, for the terrible legal advice they provided?
Sure. So I'm going to give a little history. I was conflicted on the parking until January of 2023. So I wasn't on the original decision, just so everybody knows that. So I'm gonna turn the tables a little bit, because what happened in the paid parking process is the city, I'm like pounding my hands here. The city likes to, the city chose to go ahead with paid parking. They hired a consultant that a lot of people didn't care for, but the city council made those choices, not BBK. So what happened is, 2018, they passed it in iterations of 2 hours free and whatever. Then in December of 2023, our city attorney discovered an error in the approval of the process for the district where the parking was, disclosed it to us on the council, and we ended up, so in January we talked about it, it came out to the public, and in February we suspended the program. This is the history. So the funding that was lost is really on the city council, quite frankly, because they made the wrong choice to go with paid parking. But BBK does have liability, and they agreed to pay for all the senior passes for all of 2023. And from February of 24 all the way back to February of 23, all the fines that were issued were paid back, and that have been applied for. So they're to the tune of around $70,000 right now. And they've continued to agree to pay whatever comes forward on those fines. But they didn't make the decision on the paid parking. The policies made that decision. The policymakers have to be held accountable for that. Unfortunately, I wasn't on that at the time. But anyway, I just wanted to straighten the record out. The BBK has paid $70,000. They're still paying more for whatever the penalties are coming in. And they made a slight error. It was a very slight error of the district boundaries for the parking. That was the only error. And I will say this, the opponents for parking did a great job, collected all the signatures, and got enough signatures for the ballot, and I flipped my decision. Everybody said, this is a good democracy. You guys did a good job. Thank you for doing it. We're going to terminate the whole program. And we did. And that's the most important thing, is that the issue was found. She brought it to us. It went to the public. We suspended the program. And then we ended up terminating the program at the will of the people. And that's what we're supposed to do. So I would like to point that out, and Jan Albin called me and thanked me on KPRL for doing that decision. But that's the way it ended. I just wanted the facts to be straight. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. That was Steve Gregory. Now we're going to have Jeff Carr, the same question. The paid parking costs the city hundreds of thousands of dollars. Why was no one held accountable at BBK, the law firm representing the city, for the terrible legal advice they provided?
Yes, thanks. I hear what Mr. Gregory's saying, and I concur with that. That yeah, they were responsible at BBK for that error in the actually in the code to put that together. So I do feel they got off pretty lucky, only having to go back a year. That was, I guess, that is the law in the state law as far as accountability. They only had to pay back and reimburse for a year, where they probably should have had to go back much further. And the council was okay with that, so they let them get off with just a year. Now, as far as the hundreds of thousands of dollars, the 500, I mean, the project was what, $750 million total. As far as those costs, those are on the city council, and accountability there is happening right now today, as we're going to make Steve Gregory accountable for that. He says he wasn't there at those decisions, but he was at those meetings that approved the paid parking programs. He bought the vigilant systems. He bought the Flowbird systems. So yeah, and then he let it go, and he then got real stubborn at the end. And though we had dozens of people there at a meeting, he was siding with some fantasy silent majority, and instead. So now this is his time of reckoning for us here in the city. We're up for a vote, and the voters will decide if he will be held accountable or not. I hope he is, and I hope he is held accountable. And we have a new councilman, and I hope it's me. I expect it to be me. Thank you.
So may I make a comment?
Yes.
So I'll say it again. I was conflicted and did not vote on this parking program. I did not approve a dime for the parking program or the flow meters. I was not allowed to vote on it because I was conflicted because my wife had a restaurant in town. So I did not vote on one parking issue until 2023, which at that time I came onto the ad hoc committee, which I was asked to do with Chris Bausch.
Well, the simple question then, and the simple question that the public would say is, why didn't you object more strongly to this process after the fact, after you were given the tools to push back and say, no, we're going to stop this? Why didn't you do that?
Can I answer?
Yes.
I don't want to jump in.
Well, I mean, I'm just going to add that I can find the meeting minutes and see you in there voting for these things. So it's not a hard thing to look at, and we'll be showing that tomorrow for sure. Because I was just looking at those last night when you made the same statement to Slow Tribune.
I'm going to say this again, and the people of Paso Robles, Main Street wanted to do the program originally, whatever. So there are several people, regardless of what you think, that were in favor of the parking program because they could come down and park. There was more people against the program, as we found out from the signatures. And okay, I'll admit I was wrong, but I had a very large number of people who liked the parking program, and so that's what happened. Is we ended up having to. You guys got the referendum done. We gave up on the program and got rid of it, and that is the best result because it was done by the people, and it's the first time we've done anything like that where it had to go to a referendum. And it's just unfortunate, but parking is a very personal subject for a lot of people. And I had a lot of people wanting to stay with the old parking program. But now that the people have spoken, we've acted appropriately and honestly and said, okay, we'll move on. We're going to talk about it again.
With all respect, the election cycle was coming up. With all respect, Mr. Gregory, it became politically untenable. You knew that this was gonna be a big deal, and suddenly this is what I'm talking about: cynicism with the public and with people in political power. You said you were sorry just now, and I appreciate that. However, it's too late. There was a lot of damage done here. And sir, you were part of that. And this isn't just one time. There's a number of things that have happened in this city government where people felt powerless. From our roads to the spending that is happening in this city, to our deficit, to the lack of upward mobility for employment opportunities, for the focus on hospitality. I mean, I could go on and on and on.
We need to stick to the subject. Sorry.
Okay. We're going to come back and we're going to start a new question, but it's actually the same question almost. Steve Gregory is going to go first on this one. And the candidates came up with the questions. The person asking it first responds is the person who came up with the questions. Steve won the long straw draw. That's why his questions are asked first. Steve, now that the paid parking ordinance has been successfully repealed, what are your ideas on helping to manage the parking issues downtown?
Okay. I can go ahead and speak?
Yes.
Okay. So, so for the parking issues that'll continue downtown, I just want the community, Main Street, a group of people to come forward and help the city. I talked to Dave Nelson last night about this, and carve out ways to help the parking issues downtown. For example, we've got 98 employee parking spots in 3 different lots, and if we could utilize those and get those cars off the street, it'd be great. You want me to hold on? I'll just repeat myself. So my thought behind that was to get the Main Street involved and the community involved, and help create and come up with programs to help offset the parking issues downtown. Primarily, we have 98 employee parking spots, which are still available to the employees, which I think would be really valuable to get those vehicles off the street. And then also we have 30-minute parking. And another idea that I've thrown around and I've been trying to talk the city to about this is that we should have shuttles from all the hotels to bring people downtown. I know it's a really good thing. I mean, like the hotel down on 4th Street, they have a shuttle. They do a really good job. And they're in downtown all the time. And that was one of the things that we were required to do when I ran Sycamore Mineral Springs. We had to buy a shuttle to provide people transportation to and from the airport, to and from town. And if we had every hotel had a shuttle, we would save a lot of parking downtown, I believe. But that's just my opinion. But I want the community to come up with it and share it with the council. And no paid parking. That's it.
Thank you very much, Steve Gregory. Now we're with Jeff Carr. Same question. Now that the paid parking ordinance has been repealed, what ideas do you have on helping to manage paid parking in the downtown area?
Yes. I think the first step would be to get the business owners together and talk to them. This is already, and the property owners too, as well, I think should have been involved. That's always been a little bit of a missing factor in this. They already brought it to council once to discuss, and it took them a little while, but then they decided we better send this back and talk to the business owners, and they did that. So I'm curious to see what does happen on that, because something needs to be done with the current employee lots and with the 30-minute parking zones. So I agree. I think I've talked to the people downtown, and I've heard some differing views on that, on what they want to keep. Maybe there's too many 30-minute zones, and the parking. They like the idea of those, but then others say, well, let's just give it out to the public. So I think that'll be a good discussion to have. I think the shuttle idea is a good one. It was talked about in 2019. It was actually one of the things that was promised along with the parking system. We had a number of things. We were going to get the employee lots fixed. We were going to get the lighting fixed. We were going to get shuttles looked at. None of those things ever materialized. And we're just getting the lighting fixed now. So that was another factor that was a problem with the parking system. It wasn't just the parking system alone. It was all these other things that were promised that never occurred. So the shuttle's an old idea, and it's still a good idea. I think even Dixon had reported that the hotels weren't going along with it when they were being asked. So, but we could try again with that. I think that's a good idea. But again, I think the property owners and the business owners are really the people we should be talking to first, and the government should kind of sit back and listen to them without jumping in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeff Carr. And now, Michael Riverick, same question. Now that the paid parking ordinance has been successfully repealed, what are your ideas on helping to manage the parking issues downtown?
Thank you, Karen, for the question. And, I've got concur that there's got to be an all of the above approach when we're looking at this. Obviously, the business owners downtown need to be the main driver of this. I think that the city needs to sit back, listen, and also, but I want to make a point here. You know, we have a lot of unused parking that is done all around that downtown area, and I'm including the train station. I'm including our own city hall parking. Every single parking space needs to be utilized. There's a whole host of parking that has not been utilized because of the construction of the big hotel downtown. Another issue I won't go into right now, but be that as it may, we need to be looking at every single parking unit that we can get. And a lot of times this, government doesn't really look inwardly at solutions very well, even within themselves. We need to take and provide as much parking availability as possible. Let supply and demand determine that. As we move forward, we'll see very quickly what the demand is and how much people really want to get this problem solved, if there indeed is a significant long-term problem. There was a proposal for a parking structure by a gentleman who now wants to build a hotel. It was a hotel first, and then he had changed his mind. He hadn't built it, so they had to give him an extension. Nick Tompkins, I know him. He's the type of person that really wants to work towards solutions. I think that we need to look at every option possible in order to alleviate a problem that's been vexing for a while. And, we have high peak parking times. We don't have enough signage to tell people from out of town where they can park, what direction to go in, et cetera. I think we need to look at that as a possible potential solving of the problem. And ultimately, when I say all solutions should be on the table, I'm talking about Uber, Lyft, Fetch, shuttles, whatever the solution is. Let's move in that direction, and let's get the business community to help move in that direction. And I can tell you that we can solve this problem. It just needs a focus and a priority, and the city government to listen.
And we're not going to have time for more questions. I'm going to give every candidate about a minute, and it's got to be about a minute to say why they should vote for you. Steve, go first.
First of all, thank you for having us on the show. And again, I will stand on my record. I'm a very accountable person. I believe in a balanced budget. We have a surplus. I want to support our community. I live here. I love this community. My family is here. And we've done so much to give back to the community. And I want to continue to give back by staying on the council. And I'm asking for your vote. I've done a good job, and you can see my track record. We've gotten a lot done in the last 10 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Steve. And now, Jeff Carr, why should people vote for you? Let's close up and tell us what you would like to tell the listeners about yourself.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I think I am the best candidate here for this job of city council. It's time for a change. We've had problems. We've had problems with the council listening. They haven't been listening. They're not doing the things that we feel that we need to be done. We're tired of being told about what the future of Paso Robles is supposed to be, and it's time for us to have a voice. I kind of get baffled when they tell me they have a balanced budget, because with $350 million is their quoted statement for needed infrastructure and road work, I don't know how they can say that they have a balanced budget. They have this haunting elephant in the room that they haven't addressed. So yeah, I think I have the skills that I can bring to this and get these things done that have been kicked down the road for so many years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And Michael Rivera, it is your turn to tell the residents the last things you want them to remember from the show.
My wife and I have been 50-year residents of Central Coast, and and Paso Robles for 25 years. I have served in various civic positions and several school district committees. I have comprehensive understanding of our city's issues, experience with working with others to find solutions. Roblins have been overlooked. We need to focus on our permanent residents and their needs. Our roads, public safety, and infrastructure are now significant concern in our city. Taxation is increasing and our city's debt is very high. Explosive growth is beginning and our infrastructure is not prepared. I will have proactive rather than reactive solutions to what at times are complex issues like chronic homelessness. Being reactive has put our city into chaos, negatively impacted our quality of life. We have already begun to see those impacts. Protecting public safety, especially law enforcement, is also a significant focus for me. And our budget is going to have significant impacts and challenges for avoiding any problems with public safety. My significant priorities are looking for solutions, the housing choices, upward mobility, and employment opportunities for our people. I am committed to keeping the unique character and traditional family in Paso Robles is known and loved for. Please help me in I ask respectfully for your vote on November 5th.